Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lifestyle Based Healing Podcast. We're in episode 4 now. I'm your co host, Dylan, and here's also my co
I'm
host, Robin.
Robin. Nice to see everyone. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining us.
Today, we want to talk about kind of what is the actual solution that lifestyle based healing presents, and more importantly, like basically, how does it work? Like, how do I actually start this process? And I think the most important thing to talk about, if we're talking about that subject, is like what does someone that's actually successful with long-term, permanent lifestyle changes do? How do they think? Who are they essentially? Like basically, who do we have to become to actually, get those long-term results? Because they're rare, right? They're rare compared to if you look at, American society. Majority of people are sick, especially when they get older and older, right? So you're kind of the exception if you're able to make changes, especially if you look like things like weight loss, right? You're the exception if you're able to maintain that weight loss even over a year. And so, what is the secret to that? And I think there is no magic pill. That's if you're here still, then you
If
kind
only
of
there were, right?
right.
So,
You kind of know that that's not what we're about. But there definitely is a way, and really it starts with within. And so that's what I want to talk about today.
yeah, it's a great topic for sure. And, you know, what's within and who do you become and kind of your identity about around that. And, it's a paradigm shift. It's a shift out of who you are and who people think you are and how you think you are to shift into actually no, I'm going to be a healthy person and I'm going to make these. And you can't just say that. You actually have to back it up with what you're doing, right? And start living that way. And it makes me think of years ago when I was first starting to run or jog, and I was just slugging along jogging, and I was a jogger, and joggers were different than runners in my mind or whatever. And at some point, the longer I did it, the more committed I was to doing it, the more it became my lifestyle. I started identifying differently as a runner, not as a jogger. And the interesting thing about that was I wasn't any faster. Okay, I didn't become any faster along the way. Of course, I got in better shape and was able to go further and maybe a little faster, but it was all in my mind of how I identified. And so, and that identity of, and kind of how I thought of myself, a runner was somebody who did this in the long haul and was committed and it encompassed a whole lifestyle, right? Of how I was fueling myself to run and all of those things. It was a shift. And that's what I think we're sort of talking about here, Dylan.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. And there's definitely something that makes, we've worked with a ton of people and, you know, some people take longer than others, and there's a difference between folks that, you know, are able to maintain that long-term change and some people honestly don't, right? So, um, and of course, we've made those lifestyle changes. And so like what is it behind these folks that separate them from other folks? So I want to talk about that today. I think it boils down to really three big characteristics. So I want to unfold those and unfurl those now. The first is really committing to taking a long-term perspective, understanding that life is a long game, that healing can often take time. A lot of times when we have bad health, it's accumulated over time, right? And so there's been a debt that built up, and it's going to take some time to pay that debt off. And just understanding that sets people up for a lot of success because they realize, hey, if I have a bad day or a bad week or even a bad month, it's only a part of the grand whole, and I'm in it for the long term. Um, Folks that really understand that long term perspective have way more success with long term results, and that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And um, I think that in our society, we're very quick fix and everybody wants it now. I get it. People are impatient and we're used to things being fast. Um, but when you look at how long it often takes us to kind of degrade into poor health, like you mentioned, it's going to be at least the same amount of time to get out of that, sometimes longer. And depending on how fast you choose to go, right? The body's not, we can't really like say exactly how long it'll take, because everybody has different habits and different predispositions and all of that. But I think that you're spot on. It does take some time. And that mindset around that makes a huge difference when it comes to, you know, this idea of it being a good idea to get healthy and change your life and being committed to getting healthy and changing your life. They're very different. They're very different perspectives of how you look at it. And the people we see have the most success are the people that are really committed. They have a really good reason for wanting to be well. They remember that reason and they stick to it and they just kind of keep plugging along, understanding, hey, it's not going to happen overnight. Would you agree? That's what we see.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of different when you're thinking long term with like lifestyle change, and then you know we're kind of like you said all taught to think quick fix. Even if you look at the way that therapies in medicine are designed, like they're looking for results that they can measure within like 3 months, right?
Hmm.
And if it doesn't work that fast, then it gets tossed out the window. Um, and so they're very limited in scope to what even that limits in scope. What actually is effective, and some of these meds like it's doesn't always work, right? There's like 50% efficacy, of it working even long term, and so it's just very narrow sighted, I think. And so we're kind of taught and indoctrinated to think that way. Um, but if we can take that longer term perspective and realize that it's a journey, there's going to be ups and downs, but as long as you consistently make progress, your body is really set up well to heal.
Absolutely. Yeah, our bodies are so amazing. And, even at those drug therapies, when you're given medications, it's always in addition to lifestyle change. I mean, they work so much better with lifestyle change, but that's the part that's completely left out, is so people just take the meds. And so, and by the way, they always have a lot of side effects, but they're not really addressing it with any sort of lifestyle change to really have the full effect. And wow, wouldn't it be great if you could get the full effect without the meds altogether and do it just through lifestyle? And we see that happen all the time. So I'm here to say it is possible. It is really, really possible. We see it all the time. Food is medicine. So it's just, but it takes time. I think and it takes commitment, and really being dedicated to making those changes that are going to get you well. And I think
Yeah, and
that's,
just last point on that is it you got to like really respect what you're trying or what you're asking your body to do, right?
yeah,
Um, it's you're trying to do something that most people don't really succeed at, right? And so that's what that's kind of reflected in someone that looks at the long game, right?
hmm,
They understand that what they're trying to accomplish is tough. It takes work, and that the gains, of course, are going to be way way more. Um,
yeah,
cool. The second big thing that I observe in folks that are successful lifestyle builders, let's call them, is a certain willingness to sacrifice some of the modern comforts and conveniences for that better quality of life. Essentially, if you're going to boil it down, they understand that they have to give something to get something, and they're willing to do that work because they're really clear on what they actually want and the quality of life that they feel they deserve, right? And they put a lot, high value on that and
yeah,
themselves.
yeah, absolutely. I think uh, our modern life has really been wonderful in so many ways, but so much it's detrimental in so many ways to good health. If you think about how our bodies are designed, we're designed to move, and yet we have all these, things available to us that allow us to not move. I mean, the car is a good example, we have riding lawnmowers, we have, chairs to sit in, this all these things that, make our lives easier and better. but yet it's not helping us. And um, the same goes is for food, in the sense that everything's very convenient and fast, and it's makes it all fast, but it's not actually keeping us well. So even lights. I mean, not that I don't love having light, but it keeps us up all hours of the night when we should be sleeping. And so we are in such a sleep deprived society. I mean, people all the time are telling me they're exhausted and can't sleep, and it's no wonder because we don't allow our bodies to power down. And so I just think that with all the modernness of things, I mean, we're really becoming less well. Does that make sense?
That's 100%. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree wholeheartedly. It's some of these things, these technologies have made us lazy. That's for sure. Um,
Yeah.
and um, they just deserve, of course, a lot of them, most of them can be used just fine. But we have to be willing to kind of dial back some of them if they're not serving us, right? And basically pick up slack where, it'd be easier to just order a frozen pizza, um, but it's going to come with a bunch of junk, right? So,
Yeah.
um, you know, we have to be willing to kind of question those things and do some more work if it earns us in certain places in our life to have
Yeah.
better health.
The one thing that always comes to mind for me, and I'm sure everybody can identify with this, that you're in a parking lot trying to find a parking space, and you get behind the one person who's waiting for the spot right in front. Yet there's 50 spots further out, right? And yet, and this is what it always kind of boggles my mind. It's just like, okay, and it doesn't, and I can see if maybe it's raining or snowing or, you can't walk that far. But that's not always the case. And so, because it's just our primitive brain wants you to go to the easiest path possible, and save energy by not walking so far, so park closer. And so we have to kind of make that conscious effort to say, oh, I need to actually walk a little further because I haven't walked at all today, and park further. It takes 30 seconds longer, but it's so much better for you. And so, of course, there's always the case that people that cannot. I understand that, but there's a lot of cases people can and choose not to. And so it's finding those things that we start realizing that we have to shift out of that. And I think that's what you're referring to when you're saying we have to make things a little more difficult for ourselves that might be a little more uncomfortable, um, to if we want to reach the goals we want to reach. So
Yeah, right
yeah,
on.
yeah.
We've all seen that happen where someone
Absolutely.
sits
I
in a
think
parking lot.
my favorite is watching the person drive their car as they're running their dog out the window. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like they don't even want to walk the dog. So, but to each their own. But if you're on this path and you're listening to this podcast and you're interested in lifestyle-based healing, you're not that person most likely. And so you're trying to find ways to be healthier, and we're trying to help you get there.
hmm Yeah, and the third big characteristics is really believing and knowing and um, I guess um, sort of just internalizing all the way to the bone that you take ownership of your health. Um, you realize that you have agency, you have a decision when it comes to how your health unfolds in your life. You have a ton of control of that, and you kind of choose what path you go down. If you go down the path that most people go down, or if you choose a different path for yourself, like you take ownership of that, and that's a huge thing.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I like to look at it in a very different way of it being very freeing that you actually have that choice for yourself, to choose for yourself. And I think that so often we've been taught to think a certain way, react a certain way. Like let's just take the medical industry as an example. We all have insurance, or many of us have insurance. We use that. We use it to go to the doctor. The doctor tells us what to do. We follow what the doctor says, and we don't think outside the box or even question. We don't even question, is that the best path for me? Is that the best thing I should be doing for my health? And what is my role in that? Because people forget they're the driver, okay? They're the team captain. Everyone else is on their team, right? And so I think so often I hear people come back to me and tell me that, you know, they're not being heard, they're not being listened to. They're making decisions about their health out of fear or out of being like kind of pushed, like I got to do this right now, instead of going, well, I kind of need some time to research it and, do all this. And so a lot of times they feel like it's out of their control. And that's not a great place to be and feel. And I just want people to realize that you are in charge of your health. You're your own best advocate, and that you're the captain of the team, right? And certainly your doctor has a lot of knowledge. Listen to them, but also question and do your own research. I mean, that to me, that's how I like to roll. I don't know, if everyone else agrees, but it's worked well for me and my health. So that's what I encourage people to
Yeah, I think
do.
that's definitely, you could almost say like a symptom of someone that not taking ownership of their health, right? They just kind of go with the status quo, whatever their doctor tells them, whatever people tell them to go do, which is go see your doctor, right? Go consult your doctor, tell them your
I don't know. They
symptoms.
get a lot of information off of TikTok, so I don't know.
That too, right? Um, and a real change mindset, is someone that, and this is kind of part of it, right? Is having the right mindset to actually make real lifestyle change. Is someone that embraces change, is in it for continual growth, has that mindset to get the most out of life and to seek adventure and continual learning, right? And that knows that there's more to be had, because there is. You just have to open the door and kind of take the steps,
Hmm.
and that no one's going to give it to you. But that's rewarded, when people take change. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think that the people that are willing to realize that it relies on it's on them, and whether they do it or not do it, and you can always choose not to do it, but that's your choice. That is a choice, by the way, right? And I don't care what excuses you put around that. It is a choice. Or you could choose to try to figure it out and make the changes and fail along the way, but learn from that and keep moving forward. That's a choice too. And so the beauty in this about this is it's always your choice. Okay. And I think that's, that ownership part of it is we often feel like we don't have a choice, or we, think that we can't do it because of XYZ. And it's like, no, you actually can make a choice to not listen to XYZ and do what you want to do. So,
yep.
yeah.
Cool. That's, I think, all we got today. I mean, the three kind of big differentiators or identities or characteristics that we've seen, help lifestyle builders be successful, at that long-term permanent change and permanent healing, is number one, like we said, willingness to be and take on a long-term perspective or play the long game, essentially. And the second
Hmm.
one is willing to sacrifice some of the modern comforts and conveniences for actually better quality life. So I'm willing to make some sacrifices and do some work, because isn't just that is the downside of lifestyle, right? It's the most powerful medicine. However, it does take effort, right? It's not
Absolutely.
as simple as just taking a pill. And last piece is they take, you know, really big ownership, and all the things that kind of wrapped up with that idea.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think those are big things. And and the big umbrella is mindset, yeah. Of,
Hmm.
really getting your mindset straight for it. And that's true in anything we do. Okay. Anything we do, that's a big component of it. But I think those three things, if people can be aware of them and then start understanding that they play a role in this process, they'll have way better success for sure.
Yeah, and so I'm glad we did this episode. Hopefully, for you listeners out there, you now have the right mindset to kind of embark on this journey with us. So we have some more episodes to come. We're going to teach you about all sorts of um, cool lifestyle things. And
Yeah, great. Yeah, and take that first step. That's it, take that first step. And if you want to learn more about us, you can find Dylan and I at Revitalize Wellness Center. It's www.therevitalizecenter.com. You can, check out our website there and find us there and keep tuning in. You can subscribe and keep so you don't miss any episodes. And, we look for, reach out, let us know if there's any, questions you have or topics you want us to hit on. We love talking about it all because this is our thing, man. We like helping people get well. So with that, we're going to sign off, right, Dylan?
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
See you in the next one.
Bye.